Hey, welcome back to the Surges of Income podcast. My name is Chris Moore. And on this podcast, live on YouTube, we're talking about surges of income. Surges of income is income above and beyond your normal income you get monthly from your job or from your business. And it comes in surges. So you can take that money, apply it, and grow your net worth, feed your investments. And it's surges of income comes from sale of a business, sale of a property, quarterly profit distributions, learning how to do business growth strategies to increase those profit distributions, and to have businesses that are built to sell so you can cash out and make a lot of money. Excuse me. Lastly, surges of incomes come from learning digital marketing and learning how to do product launches and live events and sell a lot of something in a very short period of time. That's what we talk about here on the Surges of Income podcast. And then each week, we're going to dive in with somebody new, and I'm going to mentor them live on what they're dealing with that's stopping them from getting surges of income or that can help them get surges of income. So today I have a very special guest, and I want to just open up all off the cuff and just give you as much value as I possibly can based off what you're dealing with and what you want to learn right now. So can you go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody?
Oh yeah, thank you, Chris. I'm Eldon Cutlip. I'm as a W-2 programmer, software engineer for I don't know 2.5 decades or something. And I had a couple of businesses. One software company was consulting and also software products that we had in the energy industry. And another business was a dating site, which I still technically have, but I don't really do much with it.
Is it farmers only?
I would probably do better if it was.
Yeah, I just think that'd be really cool if it was, but I get it. No big
Yeah.
deal.
Well, and so what I do know is that in both those businesses, I failed in the areas of sales and marketing. So I think that, that's where your skills are. So I'm totally excited to hear what you think. And right now, I'm trying to find another business to buy. I'd like to buy a SaaS company. And I'd like to, because I want to keep my W-2. I really like my W-2. So I like the people I work with and everything, but I want to buy a business that I can have somebody either already in there or put somebody in there to run it. And then just, hopefully do that again. But in all that, my fear, I'd say, comes from the fact that I've had 2 businesses and I did not grow them. So, yeah.
I got you. Yeah, no problem. One of the things that I want to talk about with you is actually the reasons that businesses don't take off, or if they fail or they don't do as well, sometimes has nothing to do with sales or marketing, right?
Okay.
Sometimes it has to do with culture in the business. Sometimes it has to do with a broken product market fit. Sometimes we have businesses that scratch an inch for us, but no one else believes they're a problem. And I think that's one of the biggest things you have to stop and look back on and reflect and say, the reason why this business didn't do well, was it just sales and marketing, or was it something bigger, right? And then sales and marketing, good sales, like great sales, great marketing is not going to fix a bad business, right? So it's kind of looking at that. And I'm not calling your businesses bad, but in general,
yeah,
a lot of times people start businesses, and these are ones that you started, correct?
They are.
Yeah. A lot of times when people start businesses, they're starting businesses that they saw opportunity or they saw a big problem that needed to be solved. But sometimes not enough market research goes into it pre-starting a business. And we're not really able to predict success because there's not as many people who think this is a problem as you do. Sometimes we start businesses, we call them scratch your own itch, right? Where we're scratching an itch, we're solving a problem for something that we see a problem, but no one else really believes it's there, right? So I think that's where most people should start, is demand. Is there enough demand for what I'm offering? Are people already buying it? Are people wanting it so badly they're throwing money at it constantly? And I think that's where you would start. So rather than talking about just sales and marketing, I think you have to keep that in perspective as well. And I admire you for going after acquiring a business that's already been through the normal 96% of attrition that businesses go through over a 10-year period, where 96% of them end up failing or going out of business. So buying one of the 4% that survive definitely is a lot stronger of an idea than starting one for most people. because starting a business, you don't have any people, no processes, no customers, no reputation, and
Yeah.
it's much easier to tap into something that's already working. So let's assume that the business was fantastic. Let's assume that everyone wanted it. Let's assume that it was something that was really positioned to grow well, but maybe the sales and marketing was the problem, right?
Okay.
First, you got to separate sales and marketing. For me,
Right.
I look at marketing as in the ability to put your business out there and put it in the right light and frame it correctly so the people who are most likely to want and need your services are aware you're there. Compared
Right.
to sales is more around the sales process. How do you take a prospect, a lead, and convert them to actually paying you money, right? So they're
Yeah.
so different. They can be very
Yeah.
cohesive. They can be detrimental to each other and cause a lot of issues. So I guess before I get into any of those too deep, maybe the business model was the problem. Maybe there wasn't enough demand. What are your thoughts? What do you think potentially went wrong with the other businesses?
Well, so on the consulting software product business, that one, the industry was hot at that time. It was deregulated California energy industry market. It was basically like the people in the industry, I think they called that process something like consultant. I forget, but basically it made room. It made a lot of demand for consultants and products too. So I think that that was good. And I started a business that I had already had experience in because I worked for a different company before that that did similar things.
Mm.
Um, and so I think that that part was good. But honestly, I can tell you this is so when I started my business, I I made shirts, right? I made a website. I sheepishly went to my best, uh, um, I'd say, person to contact, right? And I literally like went up to him. I could barely speak. So messed up, man. So barely speak. I don't even know if he understood what I was asking. And I dropped the shirt in his chair because he had to go. And like
Wow.
honestly, that was the end of our sales right there. And we still had a business. And so I had partners, and none of them sold either. But there was so much, uh, working was the sales. So when we went in and worked on jobs, we made contacts that way. People saw us, what we did, and they wanted to do it for them. So there was some of that going, but I didn't grow the business in a way that made my partners happy.
Mm.
And and I don't want to say couldn't. I got to actually say I didn't try. I mean, it was so pathetic what I did. We hired a person to do sales at one point, but the person was new, didn't have a track record, and so that didn't really work out well. We really needed to, I think, get somebody who had a good track record in the industry for sales, and we were basically like we were uh, our partners could deliver really well. We could build software. We could uh, solve the business problems. We had a business process analyst guy that was amazing. So, we could deliver, but we couldn't. None of us were comfortable selling anything.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and it was one of those businesses where you really needed to do face-to-face selling. You
Mm.
know, it was, and it was there for the taking, but I messed it all up, honestly.
So desegregation of or de what was it exactly? So energy. So
Deregulation. Yeah.
essentially deregulation where you could have some sort of broker or third party selling the energy instead of just the monopoly. Is that the kind of the concept behind that?
Yeah, it kind of made it like
Like a marketplace?
yeah, a marketplace. So like one of the systems that we did was build for the California Power Exchange,
Mm.
and they were like a day ahead market essentially for electrical power. And then we
Understood.
did work for the California Independent System Operator. They were the ones that kept the lights on.
Got it.
They worked
Got
for like
it.
PG&E, SDG&E, all these kind of
You
players.
were creating like enterprise level software for
Yes.
large conglomerates that are handling. So part of that is understanding maybe a couple things that went wrong. B2B can be
Yeah.
much more difficult for one. Number two, you're going after very specialty, very niche, uh, different entities. Maybe some of them are government entities. Some of them,
Yeah.
the sales process is very convoluted and very difficult or very
Yeah.
drawn out. Maybe you have to bid on gigs, so that's like a big, large enterprise level type system. So to do that, you can't do it half-assed, of course. Like you noticed, you have to have actually probably not just salespeople, but business development, right?
Yeah.
So if you get into the government contracting and these type of business to business, you have business development managers that go in and they specialize in specific sectors and industries, and they create relationships
Mhm.
and they bid on jobs and they go to like it's a very big thing. So it seems like maybe it was just an underdeveloped business model with great capabilities. You had great people, behind the computers and the keyboards, great programmers, solve some great problems, but you just never quite built the business model and the team out and the org chart to where it needed to be, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's probably what it was. So when you're in the B2B sales like that, it's a very it's a very different world than just hiring a salesperson, right? Because
Yeah.
what I recommend in those type of scenarios is you always want to go out and find people, not just with necessary experience and the ability to sell, but the easiest way to do it is to hire someone who already has the connections.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the key. So I've talked to a lot of the people that I've mentored and around this type of stuff and talked to about when they want to get into this more of a door to door or guerrilla style sales or it's business
Right.
development. The goal is not to find someone who's great at sales, but find somebody who already has those relationships. Right. So if you're selling hospice and home health care and you need to hire 3 new people to come work for you, go either recruit people who already have those relationships with those doctors, maybe
Right.
who are pharmaceutical reps, maybe who are selling UTI labs, like whatever, and hire those people on to work with you. So you already have those relationships, and that's how you can grow a lot faster. It's kind of like buying your market share rather than going out and earning it.
Yeah.
So that's probably what happened there,
Yeah.
and that gets a little bit more difficult. So at
Yeah.
that point, probably wasn't necessarily marketing because that's not a business that you're going to market really well. It's more of a guerrilla marketing strategy where you're using boots on the ground. You're having a presence at all the relatively focused events in the industry and trade shows,
Mhm.
and you're really just building relationships. So the reason why that probably failed was just an underdeveloped business model.
Yeah. And one of the things that we found that made a big difference too was just getting in the buildings because
Mhm.
there were high security. So basically, like to meet and talk with those people, when we worked on site, we had access. And so I didn't realize there was something I learned was the company that I used to work for before I started the business. Their software wasn't as good. It
Mhm.
wasn't as reliable. It wasn't as stable. And so because of that, the customers had to hire a consultant to stay on site to work with them to keep the product going. And
Mhm.
I saw that as a flaw, but I didn't realize that that was actually probably a feature.
Yep, it was.
Because then that person was in there being paid for by the client essentially to
Sure.
sell. I mean, it sounds weird, but that's really what I didn't realize it at the time. I realized it later once we were
Makes
running.
sense. Well, let's
Yeah.
let's dive into the another business. So let's not talk about necessarily what you've done in the past. I think from that we
Okay.
looked at sometimes it doesn't work because there's not enough demand. Maybe we did scratch your own itch. Maybe we
Right.
got into a very complex industry with an underdeveloped org chart, with the wrong type of sales process. But moving forward, working on acquiring businesses, and for anyone watching, just so you know, uh, Eldon is a part of our Dealmaker Protege program where I'm partners with Carl Allen at Dealmaker Wealth Society. We teach people at a high level how to acquire cash flowing businesses that they don't have to run themselves, businesses between 1 and 5 million in revenue, which is a sweet spot. Under a million, you're buying a job from the seller. Over 10 million, you're dealing with private equity and trade buyers and family offices who are paying much higher multiples, right? So we're going after specifically that 1 to 10 million, where there's millions of businesses for sale. Only 1 in 11, 1 in 12 actually sell, looking for good businesses with distressed sellers. So keeping that in full frame, what we're talking about, let's talk about the type of businesses that you're looking to buy. And then how can we rewrite the future and do it correctly and learn how to scale and market it correctly using sales and marketing. And that's what I'd like to talk about with you today. And I'm going to give you a roadmap.
Okay.
So tell me what type of businesses. We talked about HVAC potentially and software as a service. So can you be more specific about the software as a service? Is there a specific type of software you're looking for? Is it B2B, B2C? And I can kind of go over what I would do.
I would really like, ideally, I mean, you kind of have to, you can't always get what you want, but I would really like to find something in like a community, social media community kind of space. And I would like the customers to be influencers like yourself, honestly.
Okay. Interesting.
It's targeted, but that's ideally, that's what I'd like to find, or alternatively, I could probably pay somebody to build it. But
yeah, help me understand, what are you hoping to be true after buying that specific type of business?
yeah, so what I think is awesome about it is the access. So what I've learned from joining, like, a couple of these mentorships, yours and Pace Morby, is that I should have been expanding my world a long time ago. And I really didn't think, I really didn't, I'm not sure exactly why. But so what I loved about having a business that would market to influencers is I think I would make my learning exponential. So honestly, that's why I want to do it. I think that there's a lot of need as well for tools around people building these. So I feel like there's a good market there. I don't feel like I've seen in the communities that I've been a part of, I don't think I've seen it done well yet.
So I'd like to challenge your thinking for a second. Just forgive me. I'll just take the gloves off.
No, it's good.
Shooter.
It's good.
You're a builder. You're a problem solver.
I am.
You write code. You want to create. You see opportunity. You got to get rid of that mindset for just a second.
Yeah.
If you're going to be buying a business, you got to look at it without necessarily that lens, right? The idea of going after specific type of software as a service company because you want the sideways after benefit of being in front of all these influencers, it's not the right reasons to buy, right?
Okay.
It'd be a great project. It'd be great to try to find out there. But once again, most people who do that type of stuff, they don't do the right legwork up front, and they don't find out if there's enough demand to support it, right? We usually solve problems. Just because it doesn't exist in the market now doesn't mean it's a problem, right?
Sure.
So like, is there a place where all these influencers get together and but maybe they don't want to. A lot of influencers are like this, like, I don't want to show you what I do because I don't want the whole world to go out and steal it. So I would challenge that thinking and say, when I'm looking at buying a business and I have my criteria, my buy box, which can translate real estate over to business buying, I'm looking at what I'm hoping the business is going to do for me financially. Number one, are we looking for a business that's cash flowing a certain amount of money? Are we looking for a business that allows you to dive in and be the operator and be passionate and enjoy it and really feel like you're doing a lot of really great stuff and helping people? Do you just want to be the investor where you don't have to really do much besides maybe lead the vision? Are you looking to do something more on the consulting for equity because you are a project oriented person and you are a problem solver? So maybe going in and buying a business and being an owner investor would make you bored. Maybe you want to be a part of it, right?
Yeah,
even though you love your W-2, what if you could get even more money than what you make and come in and work inside the business? Maybe that would be a good fit, right? So I would look at it that way rather than trying to stare at it from a dish. Like, I'd love to be around all these influencers, so I'd like to buy a business that already has access to it. So that's more of a scratch your own itch again, and that's the thing that most people get stuck with is stop going after scratch your own itch. Scratch your own itch is great for bolt-ons. It's great when you say, hey, I have a company, we're spending tons of money over here. I want to own the company that we're paying, and I want to absorb all their margins and enjoy the cost synergies. But before you have that bolt-on opportunity, it's kind of giving you paralysis of analysis at some level from taking action. And you may be going way too focused niche into that industry looking for that unicorn that may not exist yet.
Yeah.
So that's just my first initial feedback. So not saying it's wrong, but it's not the right mindset for business acquisitions.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So when you talked about the level of cash flow, I like the level of cash flow to be around at least the income that I make now in case something changes. And then I feel like I would be a lot more prepared for that. And
for sure.
Yeah. So I'd like it to be at least that level. As far as the rest, the SaaS model I like because I know it, or at least on the product side. And I like that, that I kind of understand, how to get the right people there, understand the right processes for that. But where I fall flat though, and where I fear again is, in that case, it would be marketing. So like when I did my dating site, I started learning SEO. I got it to the first page, I think might have been like number 3 on the first page for free dating. And that took me a long time. There's like match.com and all these players out there. But so I felt like I gained some understanding there of the SEO process, but I didn't have, and I did play with some Facebook ads, some Google AdWords. But I didn't have, I'd say my main flaw in that particular business was that I only had revenue from AdSense at the time. So if I would have set up affiliate marketing so that I was then getting paid as I send people to other dating sites and they sign up, that kind of a thing, then my cost to, I forget what they call it, but basically my ad spend to get a customer and then get a sale, which in that case would be affiliate marketing, would probably work. My situation didn't work because the AdSense didn't pay enough for the costs of acquiring those customers.
Yep.
So I guess I would have all those sorts of things more in a SaaS product, and I really have not done that yet. Which is cool, which I'd like to buy a product that's already going. Problem I'm having in the SaaS thing though is a lot of the SaaS companies that I find are just, they're not there yet. They're they built them. They're like me. They like built it and they don't really have. So like the piece that I have to add value isn't the piece they need.
Understood. So what does that tell you though? It says a couple things. Yeah. One, if you were incredible at sales and marketing and you could go in and blow up a SaaS company, as long as it's got the right bones, the right demand, the right customer avatar, this would be a very different game, right? So your strengths are more on the stuff that you're saying they're already good at. Yeah. So what that tells me is you need to find a business that's fully developed. You need to find a business that already has sales and marketing, that has a great user interface, great user experience. It's got multiple ways it's being monetized. And what's interesting is like when I say what makes you interested and attracted to SaaS companies specifically, most people would answer that extremely differently than what you answered. They'll probably say, I love how it has monthly recurring revenue. I love how consistent it is. There's usually ways to increase average transaction value and frequency of purchase. It allows me to own my own customer list. It trades at a higher multiple. So if I want to sell it, I can make more money. Like none of those were business reasons that you said. Yours was all very, very different, which again, I think maybe one time at some level when we're struggling with trying to go out and buy a business, I think maybe we're getting in our own way, right? So SaaS is something you're passionate about, you're good at. And sometimes it's not about just adding value, right? If you want to go in and add value, actually buying an underdeveloped business is what you should do, but maybe buying an underdeveloped business that needs what you can provide it rather than sales and marketing. If you want to buy a business and enjoy the cash flow, most of the time it's not necessarily going to need you to go in there and add that specific value for what you do compared to maybe just buying it, being an owner investor. And then if you're such a project oriented person and you want to solve these problems and you want to create, maybe you take that cash flow and let it fund you starting a new business. Because it seems like you can't take someone who's a creator and a sculptor and tell them they can't create and sculpt and you should do it
Right.
this way instead. I think you should. But if you're
Yeah.
going to try to leverage business acquisitions and tapping into cash flow and buying an existing profitable business that already runs itself, that has a prospecting and sales and marketing engine to get new customers constantly, that's got good retention, that you don't have to run, that could feed your passion. So it sounds like you're having a hard time meshing passion and vision and how you can do it with business acquisitions. That's what
Yeah.
it sounds like to me.
You're right.
I don't
right.
think you failed anything. I think that you were a part of two businesses that we're talking about. One was the consulting and the software. It was underdeveloped. You had
Yeah.
no customer acquisition strategy, and the one you had wasn't strong enough to be able to hire someone and replicate. The other part of it is the dating site may have even started as a scratch your own itch. You may have seen a need. You may have seen
Yeah.
Yep. So that's why you did it. But
Yeah.
once again, when people start businesses for that reason,
Yeah.
and they're passionate operators who are technicians who are really good at something like coding and building and creating, it's almost more of, you probably had just as much fulfillment from the process and from learning.
Yeah, I did.
So I think that's where it is. To make a business like that fly, you've got to partner with somebody who's really, really good at sales and marketing and penetrating new customer audiences and user experience, and not just how to get people to site, but how to get them to subscribe and stick, and how to increase customer satisfaction. Like, it's just everything you've told me so far has just been underdeveloped, unfinished, right?
Yeah.
So what I do so well is I grow businesses. Everything I've touched it grows. It just grows. And I'll tell you, here's the secret. You ready?
Yeah.
It's not sales and marketing.
Okay.
It's business model. It's having the right business plan. It's about learning how to build redundancy. It's about having customers and leads coming in from every angle, so you can't be taken out from one market shift. That's the key here. But the biggest key is, no matter how good your business is, your business model, if there's not enough demand and you're not attracting the right customers and you're not going after the right customers, it's not going to do well. So I think looking at the entire business is the key. And that's why buying a business that's already survived the 10 years and the 96% attrition rate, that's already got people, processes, customers, reputation, prospecting engine, salespeople, management. If you're going after cash flow to fund your passion, that's where I would go. I would get rid of a lot of the criteria that you were talking about. And instead, try to buy a business that's going to give you the money you want to go do what you enjoy. Right.
Yeah, I like that a lot too, because the other thing is that just as a person, what really motivates me, honestly, most, I'd say, is learning.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would enjoy if I could purchase a business and it was running well, I would enjoy learning the parts of that business that I don't currently understand.
Yeah. You just got to make sure you don't get in there and break something that's working, but learning the process is huge.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I've done well, what I do is I study business models, right? You can put me in front of a roofer. I speak their language. I know how they get paid. I know how they charge. I know how they bill. I know how they find customers. I know when they get customers. I understand who's actually paying the bill. I understand the concept of working with insurance agencies. Like, I could go buy a roofing company because I understand it. I've studied all these business models, right? So for someone like yourself who loves to learn and loves that challenge, while you're thinking about buying a business and doing that, why don't you go start studying business models? And what I mean by that is pretty simple criteria. Imagine if I wanted to look at any business, name one that, like a nail salon. I don't know anything about nail salons. Can I buy one? 100%, because I'm really good at business. But I would walk in and I'd start learning about nail salons. Like, how do they get customers? What's their average transaction value? What are their margins like on their profit? How much does that really cost to have those little nails? Is it more labor than it is materials? What kind of storefront and how many square feet is it going to take to do well at this? Usually for a small market, small city or large city, how many nail salons can one area support? Is there an equation for the population? When it comes to the people they hired, are they trained in a certain way? Is there something called a nail tech school for all these nail techs to go to? Why are most of them owned by families from Asia? And I'm going to start studying the model. How do they get customers? Do they ever go on sale? Why are they so cheap? How do they do cross sells when you walk in? What's the sales process like? I'm going to go talk to people in that industry, right? So someone like you who wants to learn and absorb all that, like I am, because I'm very similar. I want to learn it all. So
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
start diving in and learning about the specific industries outside of HVAC and outside of SaaS, and say, where do I find the most, where do I get the most excited about it, or where do I see the most opportunity, and start learning about it. And when you do that, you start to develop more of what we call a horizontal skill set. Someone who has the ability not just stay in their lane, but has the ability to affect change and
Okay.
understand and grow pretty much any business, right?
Okay.
Someone
Okay.
like yourself who loves to learn and solve problems, why don't you tackle digital marketing? Why don't you learn how to do digital marketing and sales copy and funnels? And why don't
Yeah.
you study human computer interaction and sales behavior? And because anything you go into at that point, that skill is going to serve you for life.
I would enjoy that too. And I've recognized that that I don't even know really how to start, honestly. Like, I mean, I tried, like I said, I tried a little with my dating site, but I didn't really, where, what do you recommend?
I got a lot. Actually, we were at Dealmaker Weekend in Tampa, and someone asked me this question, somebody who wanted
Yeah.
to go the path that I went. So I literally wrote down every single course that I would recommend
Oh,
someone
wow.
take. But I think it's more around understanding what skills are needed, right? So if
Yeah.
you could go back and be successful in one of the two businesses we were talking about, the dating site, which I think you still have, or the old consulting company, for the deregulation of energy in the US, what would have had to be true for you to be successful in those businesses? And I don't think it's the lack of skill or knowledge you had, number one. I think it's the fact that the business model is underdeveloped, and maybe one to two key players could have partnered with you and taken it to the next level. In today's world with the dating sites, I think probably things have changed a lot since when you launched it. How long ago was that when you launched it?
Yeah, it was like 2010 or maybe less.
Oh
Maybe.
yeah, so huge. There's been dating sites have
Very
gotten $1 billion enterprise values and then fallen since then, right?
good.
So you can come
Yeah.
in. So the big thing for me is, like, you have to look and see if that business was going to do well. Is it a skill that I'm missing, or is
Right.
it the right player in the right seat, right? Because you can't play every position. So for me,
Yeah.
I would hire somebody who has your shared vision, who has a proven track record of being able to acquire clients, get the right message in front of them, get people to opt into the site and use it. Or you may say, hey, is it time for me to just scrap this? Or if I'm making money on AdSense and it just runs itself, why don't I just focus on expanding my traffic so I can make as much money on AdSense and it's just a passive income stream? Who says you have to dive deeper, right?
Yeah.
That's just some concepts for me. Like, I have a friend named Rob. I used to live next door to him in another city where I lived. And he is a specialist in SEO and driving traffic and making money from affiliate clicks and making money from AdSense. Like, he could
Wow.
grow that thing in a heartbeat. That could be a good, if there's enough demand in it, that could be a good partner. So sometimes we're not missing a skill set, we're missing the right person, because we
Yeah.
don't need to be good at everything. But for you specifically, I would talk about focusing on buying a business that's going to get you to the cash flow you want, maybe to fund you starting and creating and sculpting and building new things, because that's kind of hardwired in your DNA, is what it looks
Yeah.
like.
Yeah,
But
you're right. Yeah, my daughter said the same thing, because as I started looking at one of the businesses that I wanted to buy, then I started looking at, man, I could build that. And then my daughter's like, I knew you would. That was you're going to start doing.
and building businesses is not a negative thing. It's fine. I build a couple. And sometimes it makes more sense to build, right?
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think the overlying principle of, am I solving a problem people are willing to pull out their wallet to solve? That's the
Yeah.
first thing. Are people already pulling out their wallet to pay for this problem to be solved?
Right.
Is this demand? There's enough for everyone to go around. Am I able to do it better, faster, stronger than the other competitors in the field? Can I clearly articulate that in my marketing message? Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you're just the one person. You got to have other people in play. So another thing you can do in your position, just some thoughts,
Mhm.
is think about being inside the Dealmaker protege. You've got 500 plus other proteges in there. How
Yeah,
much have
very
you
talented.
interacted with those people and said, hey, here are all the skills that I have. Here are all the things that I'm really, really good at. I would love to have the ability to partner with you and maybe do more of the actual sweat equity part of it, and come in and work on these projects that you're already working on. Like, I can tell you several people who also are in the similar industry that you are, that have a lot of business savvy, that have lots and lots of deal flow, and they could easily plug you into one of those deals and let you go run and operate it, or or fix some things. Like there's a lot of ways to utilize your God-given skills
Right.
in that group. So I don't know what would stop you from doing that, but that's also another option. There's a
Yeah.
lot of people that we work with that their first deal comes in a partnership, because doing it alone is daunting. It's a big process. We all have things going on. We get busy. Sometimes we're nervous about certain parts of the process where there's other people out there that are experts at that part and they're missing you. Like, so think about, have you ever heard of EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System?
I had to look that up because I saw that in one of your last shows.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, EOS is Entrepreneur Operating System. There's a book called Traction, and essentially it's an organization that teaches entrepreneurs and online businesses a operating system to run their business. And it usually talks about the visionary and the integrator. You are kind of a visionary and integrator. You have lots of different visions and thoughts, but it comes down to it, you are a project manager, are you not, at some level?
I mean, it's funny because for my W-2, I'm a developer, but what tends to happen with me is I end up working as essentially a project manager as well, because I don't like to let anything fall through the cracks, and I try
So
to
you're a perfect integrator, right? So there's so many visionaries inside of our protege group that you would pair really well with, who have the ability to go out and buy businesses faster and easier than maybe you can. Maybe they have more deals available. Maybe they've got some crazy financial ability to make deals happen, even if it's not a leveraged buyout. And they're looking for people that can operate and be integrators, right? And it's not to go and give you a job, but being a part of something you own and working in a business that you own compared to working in a business that you don't is a very different feel, right? So look at me. My thing is consulting for equity. And then I work full time inside of Dealmaker Wealth Society. I'm the COO, part owner, own about half the company. I work in the business that I own. It's very different than me working in a business that I don't, right? So it's okay to want to work as well. It's okay to be a problem solver. And that's why I said I think you'd be bored as an owner investor.
Maybe. I do know that I would, if I did have that going, I would, like I say, I do want to keep my W-2.
Yeah, that's fine
I really
too.
like the people that I work for and everything. But so I do know, though, if I had that business and I knew it was run pretty well, I would want to not slow anybody down, but I would want to learn from the people involved.
And also you have things that you've experienced that can help.
Oh,
And
I
guide
probably
them
do.
as well.
Yeah.
And then even doing a deal like that where you can be somewhat of an integrator and operator, you can also do that part-time where you don't have to quit your W-2.
Yeah, that's kind of what. Yeah, that's kind of what I think.
So
yeah, I think that's what would work best for me. Yeah.
Yeah. So why not go and make some connections and start talking to people and say, here's what I got, here's what I do, here's what I'm great at. I'd love to have the opportunity to work with you on one of the deals that you're trying to work on. I can step in as a consultant. I can step in as even manage projects and all those things. And just there's a lot of opportunity in that. There's a lot of people going after those type of businesses. Another thought is if you have the ability to grow and even create something like a dating site like you've done, why aren't you digging through Flippa.com, FLIPPA, and looking at what other sites you could buy for very little money and revive them? If you like a project, you like a challenge, why not take something like that, plug in AdSense and boost the traffic, focus on SEO, and do that a couple times a year until you have 4 or 5 sites that are income producing for you just on AdSense alone, right? So if you don't mind me asking, how much money does the AdSense generate, or how much did it generate at its peak for your dating site?
I never did very well. I only had like $100 a month at the top. And
okay, so what would have to be true for you to make more? Well, one, you'd have to find somebody who's really, really good at SEO. Like you did well on that one generic keyword, but what about all the long tails? And then how else can you funnel traffic? So you can connect with like a friend with mine named Rob, and he can show you all that stuff and partner with you on it and build up. And you guys can go and flip websites and buy websites that have lots of traffic, plug in your system of monetizing it, and then sell the website at a 30x multiple over monthly revenue. That's what he does. So there's just so many different ways to make money utilizing the same kind of stuff you have now.
Yeah, that sounds very interesting.
Interesting, right? So then there's buy-side brokers who work for these international website brokers, and you can call them and tell them what you're looking for, and they can connect with you and find these sites for you and even negotiate it like a business broker. There's ways for you to go do all kinds of stuff like that. So I think the world's so much bigger than what we think it is. And we kind of put ourselves in a box sometimes, and we don't know what direction to go in. But I think for you, just exploring and getting some more perspective and being very proactive about testing all these different things and digging through Flippa and seeing if anything looks really cool to you. And I'm not a huge fan of brokers in general, but that's a specialty broker. And yes, so just some thoughts. I don't think you're doing anything wrong in general. I don't think the reason why you didn't grow your last businesses had anything to do with your ability to do sales or marketing like we originally started talking about. I think it was more of the business was started for maybe a reason that wasn't strong enough to start the business, or it was an underdeveloped business model that did not set you up for success from the very beginning. So didn't mean to talk so much there, but that's kind of where my head's at.
No, it's good. Yeah. I appreciate it. I mean, I really appreciate it. I know the skills you have for me are like incredibly valuable from my point of view. So I really appreciate
that. And that goes back to, I think what we do in life needs to be very intentional, and what we learn needs to be very intentional. Like, so were you in Tampa?
Yeah. No, I wasn't, but I was in the one in Atlanta before.
Atlanta. Yeah. I remember that. We talked in Atlanta. We also hung out in Nashville.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in Tampa on stage, I spoke on a subject called the top 5 investments that pay the highest ROI in 2023. And I have a YouTube video that touches on this a little bit, but I have a much longer video that I can send you from on stage. And one of the things that I talk about is investing in skill sets that can pay huge amounts of money in any economy that no one can ever take away from you. So I think going back to what we talked about before, there are some skills that maybe you'd really enjoy learning, like maybe really deep dive in digital marketing, specializing in SEO, increasing web traffic and monetizing that traffic. Maybe that would be a great thing for you to learn. Maybe learning user experience and user interface design. So if you had a better design on your website when you had more traffic, could you have kept it longer? Could you have converted to more people subscribing? Maybe learning paid ads would be a great strategy for you, and learn how to be a media buyer. Like, there's all these different things that are in high demand. They pay a lot of money.
Now, what's media buyer? I don't know.
Media buyer is someone who runs ads for they buy media, run ads for Google ads, Facebook ads, TikTok, programmatic, things like that. So there's all these different things that would probably give you a lot of fulfillment and scratch that itch because of your personality and the way that you like to dive in and learn things and problem solving, and doing it in a way that pays a lot more money. Right now, you keep running into businesses that you're interested in, but they already have your skill set. So why not go learn the skills that they're missing? What's the one thing that everyone's missing that people would pay you so much money if you knew? Why not go learn it?
That makes sense to me because like the things that I see on Flippa, also acquire.com, those businesses mostly need somebody to take them to the next level. They, the ones have like a good idea and they have a good, starting product and they have some customers.
Sure.
But usually the ones that are at an affordable price need to have those skills. So I really like that idea. I think that makes a lot of sense to me.
So that's in demand, right? So it comes back to even product demand. What about skill demand? What's the one thing that everyone wished they had more of in their business? What's the one position that would unlock a new level of revenue for their business, right? So I teach on all kinds of stuff. And have you seen my consulting for equity training?
I think I did. Yeah.
It's really powerful. I'll pull up on my slides here and I'll show you a couple of things real quick. But one of the things that most people forget to figure out or forget to focus on is, what do business owners actually want, right? So let me see if I can share my screen. You never know what direction these things are going in when we hop on these calls.
Yeah.
Consulting, Fred. Can you see this right here? It looks like it popped up, right? So here's one of the things that I do a lot as we talk about consulting for equity. And one of the things that it's really important to remember is, what do business owners really want, right? So when you go in and talk to a business owner who's looking to sell their business, take it to the next level, they're looking for someone to strategically partner with or sell part of their business to. They really want specific things. They want increased sales. They want more profit or higher profit margins. They want more time for themselves. They want to relieve stress. They want to spread out the risk. They want to expand to new markets, right? They want to expand their product or service offering, or they want to hand off responsibilities. And which one of those are you good at? Which one of those are you going to take off their plate? right?
Right. So
Either
you
you're
got
going
to
to buy the
focus on,
whole
yeah,
business and run it for
yeah,
them, or you have something of value that you want to exchange for part of their business, right? So
right.
when you dive into these type of conversations, imagine like the SaaS companies you're talking about, where these are the problems they're having, yet you haven't specialized in these things.
Yeah.
The only thing that you could do for them is take over some of the stuff they're doing the day to day, because
Yeah.
that's also your skill set. But if I was going to go out and learn a new skill, I'd learn how to accomplish these things. This is what I do. I can get you more sales. I can get you stronger margins. I can
Right.
help you buy your time back. If something's stressing you, we can solve that problem.
Yeah.
Spreading out the risk is giving me part of your business, right? So that's the kind of thing. Maybe start learning and using that as a guide.
Yeah. That's
Every
awesome.
business owner wants this. Every one of them,
Yeah.
right?
That's awesome, man. I feel very inspired.
Good. And there's so many ways to do it, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can help them solve a major problem in their business. Okay. You can
Yeah.
help them exit the day-to-day activities so they can have their time back and you can take over.
Right.
You can go out and have a whole bunch of verified wins, and people want to give you their business or say, can you go do this in my business? I saw what you did, right? People come to me all the time. There's all kinds of ways that you can do that. So I just wanted to share that with you a little bit. But maybe that would be a good thing for you. So identify first, what do people want? What's already in demand? Well, people really need, every company I've been in has needed someone who can come in and really increase sales and marketing. They can add redundancy. They can get multiple ways to generate customers. They've got a great sales process, is a proven path to purchase. And then they can build it in a way where they can step away and do it again. Like, go learn that.
Right. And that's awesome, because that's so the skill set that I felt that I needed before. So, yeah, I really like that. I
And
really
this
like
is a good use of your time, because once you learn this and get good at it, even
that. Mhm.
proficient, it's going to serve you for the rest of your life. It's going to serve
Yeah.
you because you have an opportunity to work and do something when anytime you need, right? If you had something that happened and you needed to go get more work or wanted to make more money
Right.
or switch jobs, you have a new skill set that's in high demand.
Yeah.
And it's not as quantifiable as maybe
Mhm.
what you're doing now or what a lot of
Right.
people do when it's around technology and coding. There's some sort of norm around how much you should be paid, right?
Yeah.
Compared to this, is it's the sky's the limit. Like my skill as I grow businesses, it's hard
Right.
to put a worth on that. I can charge whatever I want.
Yeah.
I really can if you
Yeah.
know how to do it. So yeah, maybe that's a good path for you to go down. And maybe at the same time, though, you can also go after buying a business that not necessarily is going to fit that scratch your own itch for you, but just
Right.
going to pay the money that you need to make
Yeah.
and open up your options a lot more.
And have that and treat that as me being an investor, and then possibly as uh, do a little R&D maybe in there. That
Yep.
Yeah.
Seems like we're
All
breaking
right.
up a little bit, maybe my signal, but yeah, that's it. Just
Oh, sorry.
make sure you don't let that danger slip in there. But I'm also going to go into business and do this and
I
make
know,
money.
right?
Just make sure
Yeah.
you treat it for what it is. But
Okay.
yeah, I don't know if there's too much more for us to discuss at this moment. I really,
Yeah.
just for anybody who's listening now, we came on the call more talking about sales and marketing and how to grow based off the perspective of I've had some business in the past. I felt like that was holding me back, kind of identified that maybe wasn't the problem. One is maybe there's not enough demand or is underdeveloped business that just wasn't set up for success from the very beginning. So another thing you can do, and this is what I really urge you to do, is really learn the game of business. I don't know how many books you've read, self-improvement books specifically on business and how businesses operate and how businesses grow and the way that they should be structured. And I would read a lot about that, because no matter what you do, every one of these is going to be a business. And
Okay.
understanding that's going to really take you to the next level. Read the book Traction that we just talked about.
Oh yeah. I think I have that on my desk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great book. So read that book. I could even just pull up my Audible real quick and show you 5 or 6 of them. Anybody else who's watching, I'm going to show you my Audible and I'll tell you what books I would read specifically around this subject. So I'm going to go and getting a one-time password from Amazon. So let me do this real quick and we'll end this episode of the Surges of Income podcast with Chris's Audible behind the scene. Let me show you what I would suggest that you start reading. Okay.
Okay.
Let me pull this up here. And we'll look at Audible real quick. This is live, but I don't care. We're having fun with it. Here we go. So let's go look at some books, okay?
Okay.
This is a great book to read, The Great Game of Business, expanded and updated. Great book for you. And this is going to give you just a little bit more information around business models and really how businesses operate. And I think for you to have more of that knowledge, if you had that knowledge back when you were doing these other businesses, would you have benefited from it? Absolutely. I love it.
Yeah.
Built to Sell, definitely something I'd encourage you to read. Not quite yet. I think that's more of something you need to read a little later. Specifically for you, got a lot of books here. I would also encourage you to read the E-Myth. Absolutely.
Okay.
If you haven't read the E-Myth, 100%.
I think I ordered it, but I haven't read it yet.
Yeah, E-Myth is definitely wonderful. Get a Grip is also very, very good. An entrepreneurial fable. That's something I would encourage you to read as well. Okay. Really, I think studying business and understanding how businesses operate, how the businesses that are the most successful in the world operate, what kind of players are in place, who's in charge of what, understanding how people get customers and how businesses get customers, and how business profit margins work. And I think really that's the biggest thing I would start with specifically. I think Rocket Fuel is a great one. Traction, Get a Grip on Your Business is the Gino Wickman about the EOS. There's so many different options for you. But I think to start with, I would read that one book that I came across the first, A Great Game of Business. I think that would be really helpful for you to read that and start learning business models a lot more. And I think you'll have a lot easier time identifying when something's not working quicker, as well as you can identify faster how you could put the right people into play to get it to work better. So there you go.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate you being on here with me.
I really am. I'm grateful to have this much time with you, and I thank you.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure. We don't live very far apart from each other, right? So you got to let
me know, right? Yeah.
Let me know if you ever want to hang out. I'm going to be in Nashville every once in a while.
Well, I would
usually only there quarterly for EOS meetings, but
yeah. If you get around Nashville, anytime, man, and I can definitely drive over there if that is at all.
Maybe we'll go fishing.
I grew up hunting, fishing. So
awesome. Well, we have a boat. We live right here on the lake, so
love to take that'd be awesome.
Today. Well, you have a great day. I'm going to go ahead and end this episode of the Surges of Income podcast. I would encourage you, if you've watched this, I would go and look at the books that I'm recommending. I would read these books. I'd also look at what type of business acquisition strategy is going to be right for you. And then sometimes also the big takeaway for me is sometimes the things that we think are problems when we start talking to somebody end up maybe not being the actual problem, and it's something different, right? So in this case, it wasn't really sales and marketing. It was more you weren't really set up for success to begin with for those two businesses. So moving forward, we've got to learn from those type of things that happened in the past. Let's look forward in the right direction. And then the one big takeaway for you is go learn some really valuable skills that every one of these businesses that you're looking at or that you've worked in the past would absolutely benefit from. Maybe go unlock that growth in the future businesses that you're going to acquire or build using these newfound skill sets, right? And I think that would be a great fit for you.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Grateful.
Awesome. Well, you have a lovely day. I'm going to go check on a couple of things I've got going. My Slack's blowing up like crazy. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in the next episode of the Surgeons of Income podcast.